There's a difference between celebrity politics and politics of the public school system. And I do believe that Roger Waters, who wrote the lyric, "We don't need no education," is a violent instigator of attacks on what my father represented as a humanist, a school bus driver, a Peace Corps leader, a naval veteran, and chair of philosophy of education at the University of Pittsburgh, despite having been offered more lucrative and prestigious positions. He wanted to work with the public in the public school system. So when you look at the way that Youssou N'Dour Senegal launched at me in the name of John Lennon, a tawdry secret attack under national security clearance from the Reagan administration to cover for the AIDS attack, you get a certain integral in understanding the society that the big studio systems around Roger Waters keep. And you would think that what they're doing in Gaza would loosen our tongues a little bit about genocides like AIDS, COVID-19, what really happened in the Vietnam War and Iraq, where there was a complete blackout. Now, we don't know how this got stage managed into a TikTok war. But the whole idea of bombing Pakistan's universities is a very personal matter between me and these Israeli goblins, because I believe in a society of scholar gypsies, that even if you're poor, your life has meaning. And these are very intelligent, wise, beautiful people in Palestine. So I object. Now, Youssou N'Dour came in the context of the divestment campaign from South Africa. But if you notice, the woman who supported Israel's genocide on the International Court of Justice is a black woman. So you can't really count on consistency because of race. Clarence Thomas was alluded to by the correspondents from Roger Waters' studios in the early 80s. So what we see is the idea of building an arc, and you can try verifying this for yourself by looking up the movie Diva. I'll give you some of the indicators that Diva was an integral to Peter Gabriel's show in the catastrophic genocidal AIDS attack that Youssou N'Dour pulled a smokescreen for by squalling about Reagan and John Lennon. And I'll explain that too. There are illusions in Diva. Now, Diva is a cast. There are villains who are typecast as skinheads and Spanish greasers. But ultimately, these hams get together after hours in the studio and are friends with each other. And you have to understand that there's a cast of characters in this ARC system situation. Now, they allude to the secret in the kids' mailbag. Remember, they stashed letters on me. They show the birth date, October 20th. There's a line in English, the only line in English, "You are a real fan," because he went by scooter a long distance to hear her play. Well, I hitchhiked from Pittsburgh to St. Louis just to hear Fripp play. So the idea that there was an intercept is clearly not true. Just look at the date that Diva was made. So John Lennon pulled a Houdini, and these are theatrical corrections from the media situation. Patricia Fripp crooks her finger and says, "Delete that and blame him for the murder of Lennon, and we're all square," right? So they attacked me as a symbol of America. I was a historic personage, as the son of Ryland Crary. And they made no secret of offing him. They graffitied his obituary. Now, the jinx that Roger Waters unleashed on me with Youssou N'Dour has troubled me for a long time, and I've been poisoned, tortured. My life expectancy is much lower with Parkinson's now. But how they did it was susceptibility. They actually managed the case for castration, torture, and premature death by saying that virginity proves rape. Now, how did virginity prove rape? Obviously, the girl in question even denied it. She was my girlfriend. I never bruised her. I cried when she broke up with me, and they said, "Oh, I didn't heal correctly." Well, in Diva, she says taping her is like rape. She falls in love with the guy who tapes her, by the way. So Bush says there's a line in the sand. Now, Fripp said to me when I met in August of 1985, which was the Hiroshima weekend, by the way, early August. We're here to talk about being sensitive and caring. This was right before Bush put out kinder, gentler sophistries. So what's going on here is that Fripp's FA neuro fetish as a musician was preying on a neuroplasm that the wad makers implanted about not healing correctly. And they set me up with a girl whose name was Steiner, which is like Palestiner, and her initials are MAS for like Masada. And there was a guy who lived next door to me when I was little, whose father was an experimenter on monkeys that used me for vivisection named Peckham. They had an index to the federal system that evaluated my case, a woman named Peck-Man. So they used me as a lab monkey in a hideously cruel experiment. And his name was Pally, like Palestine. And he was demented. He would say, "Pee on me," when he imitated a donkey. And so these Palestiner signifiers were to say I didn't have the right to exist because she was voluntarily lovemaking with me and then coaxed me to stop, and I complied. Who would know whether I did it immediately or instantaneously? And Ian Wadmaker had a saying for Bob Princess, who he didn't want to meet. I did. I got his autograph when we saw him together. Ian rode off. And that's eyelash. Home run by a Nats eyelash or something. Well, Ian Wadmaker used to talk about by a Nats contact. You see, they had this all rigged up to project envy into a situation of an HIV injection threat. And this was one of their first genocides. And this war game was, I guarantee you can find who these people are just by tracing who cyber stalks me in the sheriff department with Clint Eastwood. And it wasn't found art. Fripp says that he was found arting in 1979 when a picture-perfect image of Gail Burstyn appeared on the cover of one of his records. That was a year before Lennon pulled his Houdini. So what we're talking about in the abolition of the humanities, these big studio jackoffs, is a plan to reject someone they tortured after setting up a fraudulent office called Amnesty International to whom he could appeal as a nonviolent person who was tortured. So they can say, but in Nat's eyelash, you should be injected for hold my hands, that he never was non-consensual. That is, except for Mary, and she was always my sister. That's the lyric, right? So they'd already programmed it. Well, we're going to say that is except for Mary. And that's content. That is except for Mary. And she was always my sister. You see, they threaten the families. They go around bombing the families in Gaza of journalists. And this all comes from the deranged mind of Roger Waters. Don't be fooled. That man is a crafty Zionist loser. He's just in the cast of the Ark, putting on airs.